previous video, we had learned how do you create user accounts using GUI. So now, in this short video, we learn how to create user accounts with CLI, that means with the help of commands. So now, to create users with the help of commands, you have two possibilities, two alternatives. One, command prompt, famously known as CMD, and the second is PowerShell. PowerShell is Windows' own scripting application or own scripting tool. So the first is CMD. So my OU here is sales and I want to create users in this particular OU. So I simply start CMD, and in CMD I say ds add user. That means I am saying to add a user in the domain server. DS means the directory server or the domain server. So I say ds add user whose common name means the normal reference name. So I say whose common name would be Bob, OU would be sales, since I need to create this user in the sales OU. DC equal to test, comma, DC equal to lab. So this is my domain name, test.lab. So the way to write it, the syntax is DC equal to test, comma, DC equal to lab. That means the separator that was dot is now replaced here with a comma. Now I say the first name of the user is Bob. The password would be test at 123. It's a complex password with letters, numbers and symbols. And must ch password, that means must change password. Answer is yes. That means the user should change password at the next logon. So the command is quite easy. ds add user, that means add a user in the domain server whose common name would be Bob, OU would be sales, domain would be test.lab, first name is Bob, password is test at 123, and must change password. Answer is yes. If you can see, it says succeeded. Let's check this. So I cannot see here anything. So what I need to do is a simple refresh. The shortcut button for refresh is F5, function 5, or else you have an icon for refresh. So as you can see here, Bob has been created. So this is verification for the first time creating user with the help of CMD. Now, the second alternative, that is PowerShell. So over here, I have this icon known as Windows PowerShell. So if I start this, I say new AD user, that means new active directory user whose name would be, so you can say any name that you like, for example Alice, whose given name would be, given name means the first name, so the given name is also Alice, and whose display name would be, display means something that is getting flashed onto the screen. So I want the same name as the display name, so it is Alice. And finally, I need to specify the path. Path would be OU equal to sales, that means it is getting created in the sales OU. DC would be test, comma, DC equal to lab. So if you notice, the command is almost similar, only the syntax differs. That means the style of writing, or you may say the terms. So it is new AD user, new active directory user whose name is Alice, given name, that means the first name is also Alice, display name, that means the name would be getting flashed onto the screen as Alice, path, it will be getting created in the sales OU, and domain is test.lab. So as you can see, it says no error, and no error means it should have been successful. Let's come here and check it. So if I refresh, yes, the user has been created. But if you notice very carefully, you can see some symbol over here on Alice, and if you can see it quite carefully, it is a black arrow mark pointing downwards. Now, why so? Because if you notice this particular command, I have not specified password in this command. I have not specified any password in this command, and it is a very simple logic. Without password, the user cannot log into the system. Hence, you see that the user account is disabled. This particular mark denotes that the account is disabled. Now, can't you have a password in PowerShell? Answer is yes, you can. But I have deliberately not given the password, just to show you that without the password, user account will be disabled. So now, if in case it is disabled, how do I enable this? I can simply enable the account, but for now, the user does not have a password. So first what I do is I give it a password. So here is the password. And once that I've given it a password, now if I say enable account, you might notice the arrow mark has disappeared. So these are basically two variations for command line. One is CMD, second is PowerShell. If in case you want to try out the PowerShell command and specify the password in the PowerShell command, you will simply find it on Google. Just search it on Google, the PowerShell command to create a user in Active Directory, and you would get a long command. And since it is a long command, I prefer not to use it. Rather, what I use more frequently is command prompt. So now guys, you've seen creating users with the help of GUI, command prompt and PowerShell. What's the reason that I've showed you three different variations, so that you can compare and figure it out which variation is the best suitable for you. No doubt the entire audience will always say GUI because it is as simple as it can be. Yes guys, GUI is quite simple, but if you notice, it takes about a minute to create a user with the help of GUI. So now just imagine if you have a requirement where you need to create 200 users at a time. That means users in bulk. Now at this moment, GUI would prove time consuming, since it takes on an average 1 minute per user. So it would be 200 minutes for 200 users. That means somewhere around 3.5 hours. Much time consuming, and yes, it would be quite boring too. So in such a case, what can you do is you will use commands. You can take help of commands because the same command can be run multiple times. So in the upcoming videos, I'll show you a small demonstration of how can you use commands in an appropriate way, with the help of which you can create as many users as you want in hardly 7 to 10 minutes. That means in 10 minutes, you can also create 10,000 users if the requirement is so. That means GUI is user friendly, it's quite easy, but should be used when you need to create some 5, 10, 15 users. But you will also use command when you have to create multiple users or users in bulk at once in order to save time. If you want to just verify whether these users are able to log in or not, so what can I do is, here's my client machine. And if you remember, in the previous video, we had taken this particular machine into the domain. That means we had joined this machine to the domain. So now, if I go back here and say other user, you can see the domain getting detected, which is test.lab. Now, the user's name that we created right now was Bob and its password. As you can see, for the first time, it is asking me to change and set a personal password. So if I try this down now, okay, so it says the password has been changed and it welcomes me. That means the user created on server is able to get login onto the client machine. And this is what happens in the company. The employee's user account is created on the server and the employee is able to log in from his own client machine. So it's a simple verification for creating users using different variations. Thank you guys. More video coming up. Stay tuned.